Good afternoon and welcome to today's RIT webinar, part of a series created exclusively for RIT alumni. I'm Lydia Palmer, Senior Director of Marketing and Communications in the Division of Development and Alumni Relations, and I am your moderator for today's webinar. Before we begin, let's take a moment to ensure that everyone is ready and familiar with the presentation tools. All participants in today's webinar have joined in mute mode and cannot be heard during the presentation. However, we absolutely encourage participation. To submit your questions at any time, please enter them in the chat box. The chat box can be opened by clicking on the chat icon at the right of your Livestorm window. We will make every effort to address all your comments and questions throughout the webinar. You are joining today's webinar using broadcast audio. If for any reason you wish to dial in by phone, dial-in information is provided in the chat box. Live captioning is also being provided during this webinar, and you can find the link to access that in the chat box as well. Note that today's webinar will be recorded and made available complete with captions in approximately 1 week following today's event. All participants will receive an email with the link to the recording. If you have any technical questions, please feel free to type those into the chat box and we will do our best to get you the appropriate answers. And with that, let's get started. Today's webinar is Overcoming Life's Obstacles. Our guest presenter is Keith Koster, a 2009 alumnus from the College of Applied Science and Technology. Keith is a U.S. Navy veteran, a 3-time cancer survivor, and a multiple 46er Adirondack Peaks climber. Keith enlisted in the Navy in spring 1982 and served as an electronic warfare technician on the USS Suribachi at Naval Weapons Station in Earle, New Jersey until 1988. He was honorably discharged as a petty officer, first class EW1, and was awarded the Armed Forces Expeditionary Medal, the Good Conduct Medal, and 2 Sea Service Deployment ribbons. Shortly after leaving the Navy, Keith joined Xerox Corporation, where he has worked for the last 31 years. Currently, he is an area service manager covering Albany, Syracuse, and Binghamton. Earlier this year, Keith completed his 3rd Adirondack Peaks 46er climb, carrying the American Legion flag to celebrate the American Legion's 100th anniversary. The effort landed him on the cover of the National American Legion magazine. He is already a winter 46er and is currently running a 5K in all 11 counties of the American Legion 4th District to promote the American Legion Athletic Club, which he started. He is active in American Legion Adirondack Post 70 and the Boy Scouts as charter representative for both Troop 70 and Pac 12, and a district trainer for Scouting Boy Scouts America. He has built on his significant life experience to develop a successful career and also served as a motivational speaker. Keith is a wonderful speaker to have following Veterans Day yesterday. We are so glad to have you here. Thank you so much for your years of service, and our audience is all yours.
Thank you, Lydia, and thanks for everyone joining today's webcast. Much appreciated. The irony of the webcast is we had snow, and I was supposed to be at RIT in person today, but the weather changed our plans. So I am virtual, but we'll get through this as well. As you heard, I'm Keith Koster. I'm 57 years old, and I'm a graduate of the class of 2009. So do the math. You can figure out I had some obstacles to overcome. As Lydia had mentioned, if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to do so throughout the presentation. Moving to my life's obstacles. My life's obstacles are not limited to what you see, but I wanted to share some of these so you'd understand what drives my knowledge and experience in overcoming obstacles. I put together the presentation. I had a power outage lasting 48 hours, a little cold while we were doing that. Work-related changes taking time away from preparing as much as I would have liked. As you can see, as a high school student, you can imagine when you're in a special reading class, what that can do to an individual. The stigma of a special class is not only challenging you mentally, but as a teenager, classmates can be pretty cruel at times. I also had pole vaulting as one of my athletic events I used to do, and not being a top athlete in high school and having no coach starting track events, I truly didn't understand how nerve-wracking and challenging pole vaulting could be, but I moved forward with that. My first attempt at college was unsuccessful, not only being a dropout and being disappointed with myself, my family was extremely disappointed as well. And the reaction of my grandfather was painful and worse than probably my own disappointment. I was also terrified of public speaking. As you can tell, that may not be the case anymore, but so terrified of public speaking that when my sister had asked me to speak in her wedding and do a reading, I couldn't do it. I couldn't even speak in front of a small classroom setting or any size group of any age. Some of the lack of confidence could have come from the original bullet on my reading obstacles. Having cancer once would be an obstacle to overcome, but the challenge of 2 more cancer surgeries and having to tell your loved ones it is back and seeing your father cry for the first time is probably the most powerful memory and one of the largest obstacles I've ever had to overcome. Working hard at trying to get promoted in any job is always difficult. And I received a promotion. 6 months after the promotion, that position went away. Talk about an emotional roller coaster. Went from being elated to trying to figure out what the next step was and where I went. The loss of a parent, in my case, my father, is an obstacle to come over at any time, and we'll all go through it at some point of our lives. The emotion of this loss, in many ways, helped me to grow and move forward today. Enough about my obstacles. What other things does life put in our way? Obstacles can come in many different heights, lengths, duration, shapes, emotional impact. Traffic jam, late or missing an appointment. As the kids see, these don't seem like much, but life throws things at you. Overweight or underweight, unhappy or depressed, these obstacles are a little heavier and require a different set of skills to overcome. Divorce, death of a child or parent, loss of a job or can't find a job, homeless. These things bring more stress and require larger effort to overcome and help you move forward. Much like the obstacles in my life, your obstacles can vary. How do we overcome these obstacles? How do we balance our lives to make these obstacles something we can put behind us? As we move ahead, we'll explore the mind, body, spirit ways of overcoming life's obstacles. We'll start with changing your mindset. I've tried to live up to the quote I have there, the Oliver Wendell Holmes quote, "A mind stretch will never go back to its original shape." This stretching can take different paths, and I'm sure you can add more than the 4 I have listed: look, change, try, and use. Broken down into look at life from a different angle. Change your location in life. Try a different life. Use your life senses. I'll touch on each of these as we go forward. Looking at life from a different angle. This is changing your mind from a different perspective. We grow in life through different experiences, and these experiences help us understand and overcome our obstacles in different ways. When I first discovered that I had cancer, it was before a trip planned with my son to a Boy Scout camp in Philmont, New Mexico. The physical part of the trip was the reason I needed to get inspected. And I went to my doctor, and in a routine physical, he uncovered a very large lump in my neck. As I step back and look, 2 years prior, my son was going on that same trip, but a few weeks prior to the trip, he broke his leg and couldn't attend the Philmont trip. At that time, I was not going on the trip, but had some other reason I couldn't make it, didn't seem to be able to make it want to go. So what I decided is, after my son broke his leg, if there was another trip, I was going to go on that trip. But at the time, we couldn't really explain to my son how his breaking his leg was a good thing. Fast forward back that 2 years, I'm at the doctor's office getting the physical, finding the lump, uncovering that I have cancer. The challenge then now becomes, how do I tell everybody? How do I tell my son? How do I tell my family? This all happened, and we were able to explain it to our son that, hey, his breaking his leg 2 years prior helped me overcome this obstacle. And it was just a challenge all up and all in. After the diagnosis, well, maybe looking back, after my son breaking his leg again, it really did create things that you go through life trying to figure out. My head was spinning when I found out I had cancer. Answering the typical questions, why me? How did it happen? Angry because I missed the trip with my son. Angry at even having cancer. Confused, frustrated, and multiple other emotions and thoughts. Life just threw me an obstacle that I was not planned for or even saw coming. But something strange happened. As I looked back at the initial diagnosis, I looked at my situation differently and at a different angle. I took a scientific angle. I still prayed that the cancer would go away, but in my mind, I needed medical help, whether that be radiation treatment, surgery, or some other thing that I hadn't thought of. I stretched my mind by learning all I could about my type of cancer, what treatment options there were, all the medical terms associated with the cancer, different types of testing, holistic treatment, and other things. I think in the end, I could have written a medical thesis on thyroid cancer. By changing my angle, I put the steps in place with the help of my surgeon that provided me the best outcome to overcome these obstacles life threw at me. While I understand that when it comes to cancer, I had one of the good kinds of cancer with a high success rate. Kind of funny you say good kind of cancer. But once you get cancer, you start talking with others that have cancer, you start to see each individual kind of looking at life at a different angle. And that's how a lot of us that have cancer or had cancer find a way to succeed and beat it back. We may not win in the end, but the reality is by taking that different look, that different angle, it changes your mindset on how you approach that obstacle in front of you. But looking at my life from a different angle, I opened up options. I created and saw a wall in front of me, that being the obstacle. I could have chose to try to go through it. I could have gone over it, or I could have gone around it. By changing my angle, I figured out which way to go. Remember that by running into the wall of life, if you keep attacking it at the same angle, you're going to get the same results. And somebody once told me that's the definition of crazy. Lydia, do we have any questions yet? Or?
Not just yet. Keep going.
All righty. I will keep moving forward. The second part of changing your mindset really is changing your life, your location in life. Well, this can be a physical change by changing the mental location. It can be a physical change, but by changing your mental location, you can remove the obstacles. Challenge yourself mentally by reading more, watching motivational speeches on YouTube or a podcast. Purchase a magazine before every flight or business trip and learn about things outside of the normal interest. Climb a mountain or hike. Well, this may be a physical change in your location, and it also can change your mind and put you in a place to clearly think through those things that get in your way. My wife knows that when I tell her that the mountains are calling, it's time for me to get into the mountains to clear my head. It's not just me channeling John Muir. It is all about challenging yourself to move to a new location in your life. and overcoming obstacles that you continue to face. I found myself getting bored as a manager at Xerox and not managing my employees very well. I struggled to help them to improve and really falling short in leading. I felt really flat and I could not get out of the rut that I was in. I knew it was probably a time where my results were going to start to get worse, and may have some hard conversations with my boss. I also didn't like to read very much anyways, and I'm sure that goes back to that special reading class that we talked about earlier. Well, I decided to change my location, and I created a personal challenge to read one book on leadership each quarter. And on a couple of business flights, pick up magazines for the flight on business, economics. I even picked up a Cosmo once. I know, very exciting reading, I'm sure. But in the process of changing my mental location, I felt stronger as I managed the tools I had, increased the knowledge I was gaining, and improved my understanding of what I should be doing and how to treat the employees differently. While I wish I could say that all the reading and knowledge made me a better manager than ever, I know this would be a lie. It did help me improve, and I still understand that I have a long way to go. I do continue to try and better understand how to be an effective leader, and now use not only reading, but YouTube motivational speakers such as Les Brown, C.T. Fletcher, and Simon Sinek. And he's probably one of my personal favorites when it comes to motivational speakers. While reading and climbing may work for me, everyone must find their own location that changes their mindset you have when you see the obstacles in front of you. With the varying sizes of our life's obstacles, these locations can be different for each obstacle. One location does not fit all obstacles. So find different locations that work for you in each situation. On to the third part of changing your mindset, try a different life. This is not literally changing your life, as we cannot all be put into witness protection and given a new identity. This is the hardest way to change your mindset. It is getting over your fears. I was one of those individuals who would have selected dying over public speaking. Maybe this is hard for you to believe today, but I was that individual. I would do everything I could to get out of speaking, whether that was in a classroom or a business meeting, or as I said earlier, my sister's wedding. I can tell you that this ability to overcome a deep fear is not some 10-step program or a YouTube video. It is practicing a different life. It is mentally overcoming everything and stepping out of the way of your comfort zone. My different life begins with the opportunity to become a Cub Master for my son's Cub Scout pack about 20 years ago. I somehow did not realize that I would have to stand in front of 20 to 30 children and adults and run a meeting until it was too late. I remember the first pack meeting I ran, as I almost had to run out of the room before the meeting started. I was so sick to my stomach, feeling queasy and dizzy, and probably just about everything else at that point in time. I really had to fight through every emotional challenge and physical challenge in front of me, all of these people and my son. At the end of the night, a funny thing happened. I survived. I was alive. But I also learned that I was stronger than I thought. My life changed. And I was the only one who knew that. I did another pack meeting and survived that one, and then another, and so on. In the end, I started to learn different tricks to help me present and perform better to my audience. I learned that if I forgot something or left something out, I was the only one that knew that. This then changed my mindset on public speaking. It doesn't mean that you don't get nervous, but you are overcoming the fear. It is truly trying a different life. I gave up that once-in-a-lifetime chance to read at my sister's wedding because I was afraid of reading, and I still have regrets of not doing that. But I now have presided over weddings, done a Sunday service at my church. I MC various events, I've spoken to groups of 1,000 of my peers, including the CEO and multiple senior VPs at Xerox Corporation. By trying a different life, I have removed obstacles in my life. Onto the, oops, I think I switched the slide here, but onto the fourth bullet, use your life senses.
Keith, can I just interrupt you once?
Yes.
I'm sorry. We did have someone ask if you could give that list of motivational speakers that you like again. I know I got Simon Sinek, but we're looking for the others.
He is ultimately my favorite, Les Brown.
Les Brown. Okay.
And C.T. Fletcher.
I'm sorry, C.C.?
C.T. Charlie Tango.
C.T. Fletcher.
Fletcher.
Got it. Thank you.
Great, no problem. Again, getting back, using your life senses, changing your mindset, using your senses sounds simple as we go through life. We gain knowledge with our senses, a smell, a touch, a sound, a sight, a gut feel. These are all physical conditions on the surface, but breaking it down to the next level to change your mindset, we all react differently to the five senses. How do you change your mindset with them? I think of the sound first for me. By changing what I'm listening to, a different music, by playing the blues, I may connect to a deeper emotional level that helps me think of something differently. By listening to a violin concerto, it puts me in a deeper thought place. Each different style of music can help me change how I think, and it also helps me think more clearly, getting out the negative thoughts and replacing it with a mindset that I can change. It's just using those senses that we all have. I can do it for a problem and maybe resolve that problem. The sight of my granddaughter, as I was speaking with everyone prior, the sight of my granddaughter can instantly make me look at life differently and put those obstacles truly in perspective. A hug from my wife can put my mind at ease with the pressuring decisions I have to make each day at work. We could list how every one of these senses, including the sixth sense, makes us feel physically, but it changes our mindset. And that's what we're really looking for, is changing that mindset. As you run into life's obstacles, remember to stretch your mind. If you can overcome the power of the mind, you will remove the roadblocks life puts in your way. Again, I'm not saying these will be easy. It will take willpower and perseverance, but changing your mindset will help remove the obstacles. Moving on to the second way of overcoming obstacles, physical conditioning. Along with strengthening your mind, you must strengthen your body. This starts with an understanding that the strength required varies depending on the obstacle. If you're always running late to an appointment, changing your clock to 10 minutes ahead of time can help you overcome being late. You can change your physical condition. Remember, this only works if you heed the time on the clock and not always remember that your clock is 10 minutes fast. I recently completed, as you heard earlier, the high peaks for the third time. It started with one of my American Legion friends knowing I was starting the American Legion Athletic Club in my area. And he said, why don't you complete the 46 challenge for the 100th anniversary of the American Legion? Well, it was my third time. I knew I could handle the mental portion, as I'm a winter 46er already. Climbing all the high peaks in New York in the winter season is physically demanding, and this would be required going forward. But the Centennial Challenge, as it came to be known, as a 3-time cancer survivor, would be a greater challenge than just leisurely hiking the 46 high peaks or doing the winter 46 at my own pace. On March 17th, 2018, I started that journey. I plotted the course to complete the 46 peaks in 365 days or 52 weeks, no problem, right? Well, I work full time. I had a few friends that would go with me occasionally, but not all the time. The weather in the high peaks changes regularly, and I only have so many vacation days. Basically, life happens. Physically, could my body hold up to the schedule I set forth? I trained my legs to run. I did this 2 to 3 times a week. I lifted weights, I cross-trained, and I did some smaller hikes and around the area I live in. By training both physically and mentally, I removed all the barriers to achieving the goal. And on March 17th, 2019, exactly 1 year to the day, I finished the 46th, the Centennial Challenge. Interestingly enough, I finished on the mountain next to the mountain I started on. And thinking that the journey just came full circle without even planning it that way. This is only one example of changing your physical condition to remove or minimize those obstacles we face, and maybe an extreme example for some. In this example, I also worked with what I was given. Every individual has a different body type, different levels of stress you can put on your body. For example, if I was a recent heart attack patient, I may not have been able to complete this challenge. I would have worked with a limited physical ability. As I did this after my first cancer surgery, in my post-doctor visit 2 weeks after my first surgery, I wanted to go back out and start hiking again. I worked closely with my surgeon to determine if it could be a thing that I would be able to do this soon after surgery. And he said, yes, you can go on a short hike, as I was feeling good and healing up well, felt fine. So I hiked the Tongue Mountain Range in Lake George, New York. For those that don't know, it's about a 10-mile loop along the Tongue Mountain Range right in Northwest Bay area of Lake George. On the next visit to the doctor, he asked how the hike was and what hike I did. So I told him. And he kind of had a surprised look on his face and said, I thought I told you a short hike. I responded, it was a short hike. He then asked me, what is your normal length of a hike? I said, well, 15 to 20 miles. I said, this is only 10 miles and half the elevation change. So again, it is a physical, knowing your physical ability and working what you're given with. Not everyone knows what you've been given. So work with what you have. You know you best. And in physical conditioning, don't do it on your own. While I did hike alone about half the time, maybe a little more than half the time, I also knew that there were hikes that I needed to have a partner with. I was going to be doing a weather condition that permitted me some extra challenges, and for safety's sake, needing somebody. So to get over these challenges and obstacles and make them achievable, I had to reach out. And I didn't do it on my own. I did it with a partner. Seeking help to improve your physical conditioning can come through with a friend or a pet working with you, just like I did when I was hiking. It can come from your spouse. It can come from your priest or rabbi. It could come from a coach. We've all heard the term life coach, and each one of these can be a life coach, even your pet. And in each situation or obstacle you encounter, it may be someone or something different. Never be afraid to ask for help or seek help to improve your physical conditioning. By improving your physical conditioning, you can overcome any and all obstacles.
Keith, we have a comment question from the audience. In line with this idea of not doing it on your own, we have heard that someone say that you, as an individual, are the sum of the 5 people with whom you spend the most time. And we wonder whether you can comment on that or share whether you think that is accurate or not.
I would say it is accurate. Now, actually, this is the first time I'm hearing it, so I would say it is very accurate. And mostly for me, it comes around family and when it comes to hiking, a few select friends. So, yeah, certainly reaching out to those that are close is key, and they will help you be the most successful. Does that answer?
Yes, I think so.
All righty. Anything else, Lydia?
Nope.
Moving on to the spiritual outlook, each person finds their inner peace in a different way. You can do this through your beliefs. You can do this through centering yourself. The spiritual is very personal and is, to me, the third side of the triangle of overcoming obstacles. It is sometimes mixed with the mindset and the physical. One way in which the spiritual is mixed with the physical, I always think of yoga. Not that I do yoga, but I have in the past. You might be, you got to focus when you're doing yoga. You got to center yourself and really clear your head and thoughts. It really is, in some respects, a spiritual portion of yoga in order to be able to do it. You also need to have your body trained. While everybody can do yoga, as you advance in yoga, there are some things that I can still not do in yoga. But yes, training your mind is key in that yoga. One of the things that I really reflect on when it comes to the spiritual outlook and changing it was when my father passed away and how difficult it was. He was always a person I could go to with any problem or obstacle, and we could talk. And I would learn from his life experiences and how he was going to do, and how I would correct those things that I may need help with. And he always looked and had that experience and that strength that we really needed. And as he passed, he was gone. And at that time, my family looked to me for that strength. Yet I wanted to grieve as they did, but I needed to be strong, not only physically, but mentally and spiritually. Through my strong faith in spirituality, I was able to pull all of what I had spoken about here to provide the eulogy at my father's funeral in front of the family and friends. The family was requiring my strength to make them strong, and in some way, I was using the opportunity to make me strong as well. Well, you never get over the loss like this fully. It is, and there are still times, I wish I could ask my father how to get me through an obstacle that I may be facing. My father is always there, and my spirituality and faith allows me to still ask him these questions. While I may not get an answer like I used to, in some way, this spirituality allows me to look forward and look at life just slightly differently, allowing me to overcome some of the obstacles that maybe I can't go to someone else for. I also find that climbing mountains helps me connect spiritually. This I do as well. And when I look at over the landscape, when I'm on the summit, I can only see the beauty in life at that point. And the obstacles of the mountains are no longer in the way. I use my mind, body, and spirit to overcome obstacles. You can think of these when you're not centered and figure out which ones or combinations need to be adjusted, and find your way to adjust that obstacle. So you can use the obstacle in this way, as you use these three things, as a bridge and not a wall.
Keith, we have a question.
Yep, there we go.
Do you have any suggestions for someone who is just starting out to try to get themselves into physical shape, if they're new to the yoga that you mentioned, or they're new to some kind of physical activity, and how to best integrate that into your everyday life and pull the mindset into their everyday life?
Yeah, I can certainly say the first thing I would say is always check with your physician. I can't speak for everybody's physical condition, but it's checked with your doctors, see what they would recommend first. It does take a lot of strength. We've all probably tried to lose weight at one point or another. And you can't just crash diet on 1,000 calories a day because that won't last long, and more than likely you'll set yourself up for failure. So it's really setting up some short-term goals and some long-term goals that you want to achieve, make them realistic, and those will allow you to achieve those things. Find something that interests you. If you like to walk, you don't have to be a 5K runner. If yoga interests you, take a yoga class. A lot of things that I've done, I've started out through our local school, provides adult education programs. It gives me an opportunity at a low cost to actually try something that I might be interested in. So it's all little tricks like that, but it does take a lot of perseverance and really training yourself to understand that it's not going to happen overnight. The obstacle's not going to be removed overnight, and it may take a longer, but set up those little goals to achieve, and that really helps you get there. If I want to lose 100 pounds, I'll set up little weekly goals and monthly goals. And it may be weighing myself every day to check to make sure I'm on track. And maybe it'll weigh myself once a week and maybe once a month. But doing those little things to keep me getting there. Hopefully that answers the question. If not, please ask.
Yes, thank you.
So as we're rolling on with the time here, I'm kind of going back to my life obstacles. When I started, I had several items that I had posted. So I am an MC, a minister, a leader, and a presenter now. When it came to pole vaulting, I held all the pole vaulting records at my high school and one in college. That was the first time I went to college. I am a proud graduate of RIT. And something that most probably don't know about me is I actually graduated with my bachelor's degree the same day my daughter graduated from SUNY Oneonta with her bachelor's degree. So I have my daughter and I share the same graduation date from two separate colleges. I did not cross the stage at RIT. I did watch my daughter cross the stage at SUNY Oneonta. So it was an interesting moment for a father and a daughter. I no longer fear public speaking. Hopefully that's obvious. I am a 3-time cancer survivor. I've worked continuously for 32 years at Xerox Corporation. I went from having a father to being a father and now a grandfather. Your life's obstacles. And getting back to, I think the question was asked, set goals, both short-term and long-term. In doing this, you'll prevent yourself from failures. It doesn't mean you won't have failures, but learn from those failures and readjust those short-term and long-term goals as you go through trying to change your life's obstacles. Put your life into perspective. I say a realistic view, not an Instagram view. Enjoy your perspective because we all have great experiences and your experiences can be different than mine. That's going to be different from Lydia's. Remember, there are always obstacles, and it's how you remove them that you will remember and how it will make you stronger in the end to overcome more obstacles. And as you've seen, I've had a pretty good hiking theme going throughout this presentation. Every summit starts with a first step. So make the step now and start overcoming your obstacles. Trying to multitask here, doing slide changing and going forward. Some of the resources for coming over your obstacles, different resources can help you in different things. I just have a small sampling here, books, music, instrument, which I don't play, but I do dance, hunting, hiking, internet, travel agent, travel, life coach, etc. All these things can help you as you go through your obstacles or your life in overcoming them. And for everyone, it's a little bit different. Obviously, music and instruments are not my thing because I'm a dancer, and there's a reason for it, because if you heard me sing, you would not really be happy. So those are some of the things that you can use. Like I said, the internet, podcasts, a lot of people can get their resources differently nowadays. And travel is always a great way of helping change your mindset. So as I wind down here, really final actions to take, really enjoy the journey of life, as we all know the final destination. Sir Edmund Hillary really sums it up for me. It's not the mountains we conquer, but ourselves. I mean, you can really change that into it's not the obstacles we conquer, it's ourselves. So look forward to changing these obstacles for yourself and getting them out of the way. And that is my presentation for today. Lydia, are there any additional questions?
Yeah, if anyone does have any questions, just go ahead and type those into the chat box. We do have one. You are a well-rounded individual. You have a lot of interests and a lot of different activities. Do you think that that breadth of activity plays a role in your ability to overcome obstacles, as opposed to someone who is a total specialist in one area?
It does help. I think that's kind of one of the keys in the three legs that I really spoke of on the triangle is that mindset. And I think it is stretching my mind to a different perspective. And that allows me to challenge myself in different ways. And some of it's just ways of overcoming fears. I know when I was much younger, I had a lot of fears. I wouldn't do certain things. Some of what changed me is really having cancer 3 times. That really puts life into perspective. And you kind of prioritize what's important. But it also, by doing different things as you grow older, and I'm no spring chicken, but it's one of those things where you have those experiences and you learn from them and try different things. I ballroom dance, I climb mountains. I don't like reading, but I do read. I enjoy family. I enjoy the friends that I have. So it's really life as you go through it, looking at it positively, I think really helps too.
Okay, and a second question is, do you find that the obstacles that you face are harder to overcome or easier to overcome as you've gotten older?
It depends on the obstacle. Really, I don't want to say I was old, but I was much older when I had cancer, and that is a huge obstacle to overcome. And not only did I have it once, but 3 times. So life is going to throw challenges. Yeah, it's going to throw obstacles, and they're going to vary. And it's going to happen at different stages of your life. And so it's not something that I think is something you learn as you get older, if you will.
Okay. All right. Well, we want to thank Keith for sharing your experiences with the audience. If you have any additional questions, they can be emailed to ritalum@rit.edu, and we will direct your questions to Keith. Note that all participants will receive the email with the recording in about a week. And Keith, thank you so much for these life-changing experiences that you have shared with us today. Please join us next Tuesday, November 19th, for Women in Finance. Our presenter will be Doreen Haller, Certified Financial Planner from Best Times Financial Planning and a member of RIT's Women's Council. And she wants to stress that this is not only a presentation for the female members of our audience, but that men should also be aware of the financial future that the women in their life will be facing. We also have a webinar scheduled for Tuesday, December 3rd. That is with Allison Roeder, and it is on the Flu Vaccine 101, what you need to know. So if you have not gone out to get your flu vaccine yet, we're wagging our collective fingers at you. You should do that, and you will hear more about that from Allison in early December. Thank you all again for joining us today. Please exit the webinar by simply closing your live storm window. And please do let us know what you thought of the webinar through a brief survey that you will receive via email. Have a great day.